Alright, guys, we have reached the quarterfinals of Roland Garros. The tournament has progressed mostly as expected, with two, I guess you could call them surprises. The biggest surprise is that Alexander Bublik, the Kazakh, has made his way all the way to the quarterfinals. Most people were probably expecting him to lose in the second round against Alex de Minaur. De Minaur had, I believe, a 3-love head-to-head over Bublik going into that match, and he won the first 2 sets, but Bublik came back and won the next 3 to win that match in 5 sets. And then he had a qualifier in the third round, Enrique Rocha, who defeated Jakub Mensik also in the second round, also from 2 sets to love down, around the same time that the Bublik comeback was going on. Rocha also came back from 2 sets to love down against a seeded player. But then Bublik defeated Rocha in straight sets in the third round. It was Rocha's first main draw Grand Slam appearance, I believe. So still a good tournament for him. And then Bublik just played the 5th seed Jack Draper in the 4th round today, and he won in 4 sets. It was probably one of the best matches that Bublik has ever played. I watched some of the match and it was quite breathtaking to watch. He was serving big, hitting second serves at the same pace as first serves. He was hitting great returns. He was moving well. He was hitting his forehand well. He was hitting his backhand well. And the biggest thing, perhaps, was that he was destroying Draper with drop shots. He did a lot of drop shots, even more drop shots than Carlos Alcaraz. He was looking like Carlos Alcaraz there because he was doing a lot of drop shots and it was working almost every time. It was very entertaining to watch. Bublik, he served only 60% first serves, but his second serve was sometimes like a first serve, and he still won 81% of points behind his first serve. Double faulted 7 times, which is pretty standard Bublik stuff, but he also hit 8 aces. But in total in the match, he did 68 winners and 39 unforced errors. So he did 29 more winners than unforced errors. That is insane. That is pretty much a peak performance from Bublik. And he is the surprise of the tournament. One of the 2 surprises. The other surprise, which is not as much of a surprise, but still somewhat, is that Frances Tiafoe has also reached the quarterfinals. And that is a surprise because he is not known to play well on clay, like most American players. And he is also not known to play particularly well when he is not in the United States. But he has somehow made it to the quarterfinals. So it is surprising for those reasons. But the reason why someone could say that it's not super surprising is because of his draw. His draw has not been the hardest, let's say that, but it's still a bit surprising that it's Tiafoe in the quarterfinals of the French Open. But he was in the troll section of the draw, the 250 tournament section of the draw, that Taylor Fritz was in. And Taylor Fritz actually lost in the first round, which I kind of saw coming. He was playing a clay specialist who had already beaten 2 or 3 top 10 players at the French Open, and he added another one when he defeated Fritz in the first round. So that section of the draw had 5 Americans in it, including Fritz. Fritz got knocked out first round. Mickelson, the 32nd seed, got knocked out first round by another clay specialist. Korda, he went to the third round, but he lost to Tiafoe. So Tiafoe defeated Safiullin, Carreño Busta, Korda, and Altmaier to reach the quarterfinals. So that is not the hardest draw. He faced 3 unseeded players, and then he faced Korda, who was the 23rd seed. So given that he was in the troll section of the draw, it is not the biggest surprise that he made it there. He is the 15th seed, the second highest ranked player from that section of the draw. But it is still somewhat surprising that it's Tiafoe. And what is perhaps more surprising is that he has actually won all of these matches in straight sets. So he has not dropped a single set on the way to the quarterfinals, Tiafoe. He's won 4 straight matches in a row, all in straight sets. So that is pretty impressive from Tiafoe, even if he did not have the strongest opponents. It is funny that we have 3 players at this point in the tournament who have not lost a single set on their way to the quarterfinals. Jannik Sinner, which is not a surprise at all, because he's the world number 1, and he is destroying pretty much everybody now, except for Alcaraz. Novak Djokovic has also not dropped a set. He has had a pretty easy draw as well. Perhaps even easier than Tiafoe's draw, which can also works in his advantage because he conserves energy, but can also be a disadvantage when he has to face a player who is going to be so much higher in level and higher in rank than the previous players that he faced in the tournament. But Djokovic has faced 3 unseeded players and a qualifier. So, pretty easy draw for Djokovic. He has not lost a single set on the way to the quarterfinals. And then the third player who has not lost a set, again, is Tiafoe. So it's kind of funny that the 3 players who have not lost a set, Sinner, Djokovic, and Tiafoe. The first 2 are not really surprising. The third one is one of these things is not like the others. Let's just say that. But congratulations to Tiafoe for making it to this point. He has done well, and there are actually 2 American players in the draw. The other one is Tommy Paul, who is the 12th seed. So that is a bit surprising to see 2 American players in the quarterfinals of the French Open. I mean, I don't even know. Let's see. Last year there was no Americans in the quarterfinals. In 2023, no Americans in the quarterfinals. 2022, no Americans in the quarterfinals. 2021, no. 2020, that weird year, nope. 2019, no. 2018, this might take a while. I really don't know when the last time there was an American in the quarterfinals of the French Open. That is how bad Americans are on clay, generally. Going back to 2015. This might actually be like 20 years. Which is why it's surprising. Again, now we have 2 of them. 2012? No. I'm still looking. It has to get there at some point. I don't think it's more than 25 years ago. I'm going back to 2006 now. 2005. Come on. Roddick? No, he's not. He's trash on clay. 2004. I think 2003 there will be. 2003, Andre Agassi, towards the end of his career, was the last time there has been 1 American in the quarterfinals of the French Open, and Agassi was the 2nd seed. So it has been 22 years since there was 1 American in the quarterfinals of the French Open, and now we have 2. So that can be considered a surprise. But Paul was somewhat less surprising than Alcaraz, I suppose, because Paul has shown a bit more decent results on clay. Paul, he had a bit of a harder draw than Tiafoe. He had to face... The first round, he faced a lucky loser, Elmer Moller, who people have not really heard of. Then he faced Fucsovics, who was a decent clay court player, and he was 2 sets to love down against Fucsovics, and Paul came back. Then he faced Khachanov, who was just decent on any surface, pretty much. He's kind of just a guy that's always there, and sometimes just casually makes the second week of slams. Another 5-set match there, Paul defeated him. Hachanov was the 24th seed. Then he faced Popperin, the 25th seed, and Paul won that in straight sets. So a hard draw there from Paul, but also less surprising that Paul reached the quarterfinals of the French Open than Tiafoe. Paul has spent more time on court. But anyway, now let's get into actually predicting the quarterfinal matches. And let's talk about. Oh wait, I should mention my top 4 favorites. 3 of them are still in the tournament, of course, which are Sinner, Alcaraz, or I should say Alcaraz, Sinner, and Djokovic. Those were my first, second, and fourth favorites, respectively. My third favorite, Holger Rune, lost against Lorenzo Musetti in the 4th round in 4 sets. I was not really massively surprised by that. I think I mentioned in my prediction video before that that match could go either way as well. But yeah, so that was not really that much of a shock. It's somewhat. I wanted Rune to win because I believe that he would have a better chance against Alcaraz in the semifinals than Musetti would, because Musetti gets owned by Alcaraz. So now I am rooting for Tiafoe to defeat Musetti, because even Tiafoe versus Alcaraz on clay will be more interesting than Musetti versus Alcaraz, because Musetti has no chance against Alcaraz. Tiafoe he shouldn't have much of a chance either, but just given the matchup history, he did almost beat Alcaraz at Wimbledon. I feel like that match would be somewhat more interesting than Musetti versus Alcaraz. But let's actually predict the matches now. So, starting with the first quarterfinal that will be played tomorrow is the 8th seed Lorenzo Musetti taking on the 15th seed Frances Tiafoe. The head-to-head is 3-2 for Tiafoe. It is 1-love on clay to Musetti. They faced in Rome 2 years ago, and that was actually a close 3-set match. Musetti, who, like I just said, defeated Holger Rune in 4 sets in the 4th round. He served 64% first serves in. That was a little too low. You will want to get that higher against Tiafoe. But he hit 39 winners and 34 unforced errors, so he did 5 more winners than unforced errors. So this was a pretty solid performance from Musetti. Tiafoe, on the other hand, defeated Daniel Altmaier, the clay specialist who took out Fritz in the 1st round. He defeated him in straight sets. The impressive thing for me was that Tiafoe was down 5-2 or 5-3 in the 3rd set, but he came back to win that in a tiebreak. So even that set he didn't let go by. He still wanted to win that set to make it 12 sets in a row that he has won at this year's French Open. That was the impressive part about this match from Tiafoe for me. But he was also very good in the stats. He served 68% first serves in, that is good. And he hit 40 winners and 36 unforced errors. So he did 4 more winners than unforced errors. So Tiafoe is peaking. This, again, not the hardest draw for Tiafoe, but this is basically Tiafoe at his best in this tournament. I'm not gonna lie. So because of that, even though most people would consider Musetti the superior clay court player, which he technically is by acclamation, I'm actually going to go with Tiafoe to win this match, but I'm not confident in that prediction. I think that it can go either way. So I will pick Tiafoe to win this in 5 sets. And I also, like I said, I hope that he wins, because I think the match against Alcaraz in the semifinals will be more interesting. If it's Tiafoe, then it's Musetti. But that is not having to do with my prediction. My prediction is Tiafoe in 5 sets. But this can certainly go either way. Now on to the night session match for tomorrow, which is the 2nd seed and most people's favorite to win the tournament, Carlos Alcaraz, and he will take on the 12th seed Tommy Paul. The head-to-head is 4-2 for Alcaraz. It is 1-love to Alcaraz on clay. They faced last year in the Olympics, which was actually... Paul didn't play too badly in that match. I think he was actually up 5-3 or something in the second set and I think he had like a set point or something. But of course, he lost it and Alcaraz won that in a tiebreak. But that was still a tough match that Paul played against Alcaraz. He usually actually gives Alcaraz some challenge. Pretty much every time he gives Alcaraz like a decent amount of challenge. So Alcaraz defeated Ben Shelton in 4 sets in the 4th round. Shelton was actually playing really well in that match. Maybe even the best he has played on clay. He could have won at least another set. The problem was that he didn't take his chances. Alcaraz won the first set in a tiebreak, 10 points to 8. Shelton had 3 set points in the tiebreak. And he also had break points, I believe, in the second set, which he also didn't convert. So Alcaraz out-clutched Shelton, even though this was not Alcaraz at his best. Alcaraz served pretty well. He hit 70% first serves in, which is pretty high, especially for Alcaraz. So that was good. He hit 43 winners and 43 unforced errors. So it was decent. It was a solid performance from Alcaraz, I will say. I don't think this was Alcaraz at his peak, but he out-clutched Shelton. That was the main thing. Tommy Paul, on the other hand, in probably his best match of the tournament, he defeated Alexei Popyrin in straight sets. Hit 61% first serves in. That is a little too low. He will want to get that higher against Alcaraz. But he hit 27 winners and 22 unforced errors, so he did 5 more winners than unforced errors. So this was also a solid performance by Tommy Paul. The main thing that I am thinking of when predicting this match is that both of these players are playing solidly, but the big thing here is that Tommy Paul has never defeated a top 10 player in a slam. So I don't think that he will do that this time against Alcaraz, especially not with that low first serve percentage. So I think that Alcaraz will win this in 4 sets. I think Paul can take a set. I mean, Alcaraz has lost a set in his last 3 matches, and like I said, Paul, he usually gives Alcaraz some challenge, so I will not be surprised if Paul takes a set. But I don't think he will win, so I will have Alcaraz winning this match in 4 sets. And now on to the quarterfinals that will be played tomorrow. First, we have the top seed Jannik Sinner, who is taking on the main surprise of the tournament, Alexander Bublik from Kazakhstan. Bublik, I already talked about the stats against his match against Draper, so that was one of the best matches that Bublik has played in his career. Sinner, on the other hand, a pretty expected result against Rublev, destroyed him as he has been doing to most people on the tour. 6-1, 6-3, 6-4. 62% first serves, that's a little low, but Sinner doesn't hit a high percentage of first serves in because he doesn't need to. He just defeats everyone from the baseline. And he hit 25 winners and 19 unforced errors, so he did 6 more winners and unforced errors. So another solid performance from Sinner, enough to completely destroy most opponents. Here, the thing about Sinner is that to defeat Sinner, he's the best baseliner in the world at the current moment. He's not the best baseliner of all time, obviously. Djokovic is still the best baseliner of all time. But right now, Sinner is the best pure baseliner in the world. So nobody can really stand toe-to-toe with him if they are only just trading shots from the baseline. And I know people are going to say, oh, Alcaraz beats him. But Alcaraz, he doesn't beat him by going toe-to-toe with him from the baseline. That's the thing. The reason that Alcaraz beats Sinner is that he has variety. He doesn't just try to out-hit Sinner from the baseline and hit the same type of shot over and over against Sinner from the baseline. He actually tries to mix up the spins, mix up the heights, hit drop shots, go to the net, and that's why he beats Sinner. He doesn't beat Sinner because he out-rallies Sinner from the baseline. And also Alcaraz has amazing defensive skills. But the problem is that there's pretty much no other player on tour at the current moment who has enough variety to defeat Sinner. Because no one is beating Sinner from the baseline. So the only way you can beat Sinner is if you have variety. And Alcaraz is the only one that has enough variety to do that at the moment. Because no one can beat Sinner from, if they just went toe to toe with him from the baseline, you will lose. You will lose basically every time. Rublev, Lehechka, these guys are ball bashers. They are ball bashers. They don't have variety. They don't know how to hit drop shots. They are not that good at the net. So they will never beat Sinner with only pure baselining, pure ball bashing. They will never beat Sinner because Sinner just does that better than them, more consistently than them. They hit a hard shot, he hits a harder shot. So those guys can never beat Sinner. They can basically never beat Sinner unless Sinner has a bad day, as was the case when Rublev somehow beat him in Toronto last year. That was one of the few off days that Sinner has had in the last year plus. That was really an off day. So that's really the only way that you can beat Sinner, is he has an off day, or somehow you play the match of your life and you have variety. Because if you just go toe to toe with him from the baseline, you will basically lose every time. And that is exactly what happened here, and exactly what happened against Lehechka, and what has happened to countless other players over the past 12 plus months when playing against Jannik Sinner. So the head-to-head between Sinner and Bublik is 3-1 to Sinner. They have never faced on clay. Sinner will win this match, obviously. Even though Bublik was basically playing the match of his life against Draper, he's not going to beat Sinner. However, it will still be more interesting than Sinner's previous matches in the tournament because of the fact that Bublik actually has some variety in his game. He does a lot of drop shots. He likes to go to the net. He hits big serves. So at least he will actually try to do something else with the tools that he has, the drop shots, the net approaches, because he knows that he will not defeat Sinner from the baseline. He's not stupid. Rublev, Lehechka, I'm not saying they're stupid, but they don't have the tools to do anything else against Sinner. So they can basically only play him from the baseline, even though that will result in them losing every time. Rublev, he cannot hit a drop shot. He cannot hit a drop shot to save his life. He cannot play net. Rublev is terrible at the net. He is really terrible at the net. He is one of the worst players at the net that I have ever seen. Him and Medvedev. I used to think Medvedev was the worst player at the net in the top 100 or so, maybe. But Rublev might be even worse than Medvedev at the net, if I'm being honest. Rublev, when I see him volley, it is terrible. It's really terrible. So Bublik has a better volley than Rublev, that's for sure. And he also has a better drop shot than Rublev. Rublev doesn't even have a drop shot, so by default. So this will be more interesting than Sinner's previous matches because Bublik is definitely going to use variety. He's not going to just try to out-hit Sinner from the baseline. That will never happen. But despite the kitchen sink that Bublik will throw at Sinner, he will not win. It will not be enough. Let's be honest, guys. Because Sinner's he's just too consistent. I don't think Bublik will be able to maintain a high enough level over the course of 3 sets to take out Sinner. But I think that he can peak and maybe grab a set. So I will say that Sinner wins this in 4 sets. But, yeah. I was going to say something else, but I forgot. But yeah, Sinner in 4 sets. So now, the last quarterfinal is the 3rd seed Alexander Zverev taking on the 6th seed Novak Djokovic. So, actually, this is actually a difficult match to predict for me. But, I had Djokovic as my 4th favorite going into the tournament. I had him going to that semifinal against Sinner. But I have not been the most convinced by Djokovic in this tournament. Yeah, I know he has not dropped a single set, but he has not looked actually very good. In his match against Cameron Norrie, he hit only 60% first serves in, which is too low, and he had 26 winners and 28 unforced errors. So he did 2 more unforced errors than winners. So this was actually not the best performance from Djokovic, but he still won easily because he owns Norrie. Let's be honest, he owns Norrie. He now has a 6-0 head-to-head against Norrie. So Norrie he doesn't have enough things to trouble Djokovic, but Djokovic did not actually play that well in this match. So, looking at his other matches, he played pretty well against Misolic in the 3rd round, but Misolic is also just a qualifier. So it's actually hard to take away how high Djokovic's level has been. I think he has looked pretty good in round 2, round 3. Actually, he has looked pretty good in the first 3 rounds, but he has not faced strong opponents, and he has not looked that good in this last round against Cameron Norrie. Zverev, on the other hand, he has looked solid. He's looked solid. I think he has looked solid. He advanced to the quarterfinals via a retirement from Talon Griekspoor. Griekspoor lost the first set and was down love 3 in the second set before he retired. So you can't take much away from that match. But in Zverev's last match before that, in his 3rd round against Cobolli, I actually thought that Cobolli would present a bigger challenge to Zverev. Cobolli, who just won Hamburg, and he was looking pretty strong in his first 2 matches at the French Open. But Zverev took care of him pretty comfortably. It was 6-2, 7-6, 6-1. So the second set was kind of up and down, but in the 1st and 3rd sets, he basically destroyed him. 78% first serves from Zverev, pretty high, but that's also pretty expected from Zverev. And he hit 32 winners and 30 unforced errors. So he did 2 more winners than unforced errors. So Zverev was basically at his peak in this match, in this 3rd round match. And Djokovic did not look very good in his 4th round match. Again, it's a bit hard to tell because the retirement from Griekspoor kind of messes things up. So you can't see how Zverev would have done against another solid opponent in Griekspoor. But I'm really not sure what will happen in this match. But I do not have the highest confidence in Djokovic, even though he has not lost a set. Obviously, I want Djokovic to win. I'm a Novak Djokovic fan. But considering his last performance and there's also the jump up in level, like I was mentioning earlier. Djokovic has only faced unseeded players and a qualifier. So now he will go from facing 3 unseeded players and a qualifier to the world number 3. So sometimes when you go up to facing a player who is so much higher level and so much higher ranked than your previous opponents, that can be difficult to deal with. So I'm really not sure what will happen in this match because I don't have the best indication of Djokovic's real level or Zverev's real level. So I think that this match can maybe go either way, but I am giving my slight edge to Zverev. Actually, that is actually what I did in the Australian Open this year. They faced in the semifinals. I said that Zverev will win in 5 sets, and he won, but it was because of a retirement from Djokovic after he injured his hamstring. But I'm going to repeat my prediction of Zverev in 5 sets. Actually, at this tournament, the head-to-head is 8-5 to Djokovic. It is 1-1 on clay. They have actually only faced twice on clay. All the other meetings have been on hard courts. They faced here at Roland Garros, but that was 6 years ago. Djokovic won in straight sets. Everything is different since then, so I won't take much away from that. But I'm slightly leaning Zverev here. Crazy as that may sound, for Zverev to be the one to defeat Novak Djokovic in the first 2 Grand Slams of the year, I just don't have that much faith in Djokovic, even though I want him to win. But also, if he wins, he's going to have to face Jannik Sinner. And I don't know if I want to see that, because I don't know what Sinner is going to do to him at this point, and I don't want to see him get cooked. Yes, I have very little faith, as you can see. But can you blame me? He has lost the last 3 times against Sinner, and Sinner is absolutely destroying people. So I don't know if it will be better for him to lose to Zverev and then another easy win for Sinner against Zverev than for him to beat Zverev and get destroyed by Sinner. But anyway, let's focus on one thing at a time. So I will pick Zverev to defeat Djokovic in 5 sets. So, to recap my predictions, I think that Tiafoe will defeat Musetti in 5 sets. Alcaraz will defeat Paul in 4 sets. Sinner will defeat Bublik in 4 sets. And Zverev will defeat Djokovic in 5 sets. So we will have semifinals between... So the semifinals at the French Open this year will be the top seed Jannik Sinner taking on the 3rd seed Alexander Zverev, and the 15th seed Frances Tiafoe taking on the 2nd seed Carlos Alcaraz.